Look at yourself. No, seriously, really look at yourself. Are you the person you once dreamed of becoming? Or are you drifting further away from that version of yourself you once wanted to build? Time passes, opportunities slip away, and without realizing it, you're still trapped by the same old excuses. I don't have time. I don't know how. I'll start tomorrow. Until when? How many more years will you waste before you wake up? Today is the day you decide. Either you keep being your own worst enemy, or you start becoming your best self. In this video, I'm going to show you 10 Stoic lessons that will transform the way you think, act, and face the world. These aren't just random tips. They're powerful tools that have helped some of history's greatest minds conquer their fears, eliminate excuses, and become their best selves. Because yes, we all want to improve, but few actually know how to do it. The difference between staying stuck or moving forward lies in the decisions you make every day, in how you manage your thoughts, and in the actions you stop postponing. The Stoics understood this centuries ago, and today their teachings are more relevant than ever. So tell me, are you going to keep living on autopilot, or are you ready to take control and become your best self? But before we begin, I want you to meet John. John was 38 years old, kneeling on the floor of his small apartment in New York. It wasn't the first time he had felt like this, but it was the first time he couldn't run from the truth. The apartment was a mess, the lights were off. The only sound was the echo of his own heavy breathing. He had lost his job. Was it his boss's fault? The economy? Bad luck? No, none of that. He got fired because he had been late too many times, because he did his work without effort, because he had stopped trying. He had failed in his marriage. Had his wife left him for no reason? Was it a cruel twist of fate? A sudden misfortune? No, of course not. She had left because he wasn't present anymore, because he always had an excuse, because every time she tried to talk to him, he was glued to his phone. But there was something even worse. He had lost confidence in himself, and that had broken him. How did he end up here? He kept asking himself over and over again. Was it stress? Exhaustion? Life turning against him? There he was, staring at the wreckage of his life, searching for someone to blame. But deep down, he already knew the truth. He had dug this hole himself. What John didn't know was that that night, at his lowest point, he was about to find the answer he had been avoiding his whole life. Out of sheer desperation, he started looking for anything to distract him. As he rummaged through his old books, he found a worn-out copy of Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. He had bought it years ago but never read it. Without thinking, he opened it, and his eyes landed on a single sentence. Stop debating what a good man should be. Be one. Boom. It hit him like a punch to the gut. John closed the book and sat in silence. His mind resisted. But things aren't that simple. But the truth was already there. It wasn't fate, it wasn't his boss, it wasn't his ex-wife. It was him. He was his own worst enemy. He got up from the floor. Not because he suddenly knew what to do with his life, but because he realized that staying there wouldn't change a thing. The next day, he didn't find a job, he didn't fix his marriage, he didn't receive a miracle call. But he did something even more important. He went for a run. Why running? Because he wanted to prove to himself that he could do something difficult and not quit. Day after day, he repeated the same process. Every time his mind told him to stop, he remembered Marcus Aurelius. Today, John isn't a millionaire, he isn't famous, and he doesn't have a perfect life. But he is free. Free from excuses, free from victimhood, free from the weak version of himself he once was. And now, tell me, how much longer are you going to let your own mind hold you back? Because, my friend, this isn't just John's problem. It's yours. It's mine. It's everyone's. And in this video, you're going to learn the 10 Stoic lessons you need to stop being your own worst enemy and start becoming your best self. So tell me, are you going to keep living the way you have until now? Or are you going to take control of your life? Let's begin. Before we continue, if this content is bringing you value, consider subscribing and becoming an exclusive member to access unique perks. And tell us in the comments, what are you doing today to become your best self? We want to grow together with you. 1. Your biggest rival is yourself. Imagine this. You're in a boxing ring. The roar of the crowd pounds in your ears. The lights are so intense that you can barely see clearly. You feel the heat of the spotlights on your skin, the sweat on your forehead, the weight of the gloves in your hands. The bell rings, and with your heart pounding in your chest, you step forward. You scan the ring, looking for your opponent. You know they're there somewhere, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. But then, you realize something strange. There's no one in front of you. You blink, confused. You glance to the sides. The referee doesn't seem surprised. The crowd keeps cheering, but the ring is empty. And then, you see it. There, reflected in the ropes of the ring, in the shine of the sweat-covered floor. There's your real opponent. It's not your boss. It's not the economy. It's not a lack of opportunities. It's not fate, bad luck, or society. It's that voice inside your head. The one that tells you you're not good enough. The one that says you should put it off until tomorrow. The one that convinces you it's not worth trying because you'll probably fail. And here's the big question. How many times have you sabotaged yourself without even realizing it? Think about it. How many opportunities have you let slip away because you convinced yourself you weren't ready? How many projects have you abandoned because you believed you wouldn't succeed? How many times have you postponed something you truly wanted to do because you told yourself, now isn't the right time? The problem isn't the world. The problem isn't the competition. The problem isn't time. The problem is you. Epictetus knew this well. No man is free if he is not master of himself. So now tell me, are you in control of yourself? Because real freedom isn't doing whatever you want. It's doing what you know you need to do, even when you don't feel like it. It's getting up when every part of you wants to stay in bed. It's taking action when your mind tells you to wait. It's telling yourself the truth, even when you'd rather cling to a comfortable excuse. But let's be clear, this isn't easy. Imagine if Epictetus were alive today and met someone who wants to change their life without putting in any effort. Someone who wants to be fit, but instead of training buys miracle weight loss pills. Or worse, someone who signs up for a gym, pays the membership, and then never goes. What do you think Epictetus would say? Probably something like, "You're wasting your time and money. You want others to fix your life for you, but they aren't the problem. The problem is you. You are your own obstacle." And yes, this is hard to hear. But once you accept it, everything changes. Because if you are your worst enemy, then you can also become your greatest ally. So how do you win this fight? First, stop lying to yourself. Grab a pen and paper and write down 3 excuses you tell yourself every day. I don't have time. I'm not good enough. It's too late to start. Now look at them, read them out loud, and question them. Are they real, or are they just convenient excuses? Second, pick one, just one, and destroy it. If you say you don't have time, find 30 minutes. If you say you're not good enough, do it anyway. If you think it's too late, remember that every day you don't try is another day wasted. Remember, my friend, the real fight isn't against the world, it's against yourself. So tell me, are you going to keep battling imaginary enemies, or are you finally ready to look in the mirror and win the real fight? Because if you don't take control, you'll never become your best self. 2. If you neglect your body, you lose the battle. It's Monday morning. Your alarm goes off, and without thinking, you hit snooze. Just 5 more minutes, you tell yourself, but those 5 minutes turn into 20. When you finally get up, your body feels heavy, your mind is foggy, and you have no energy. You drag yourself to the kitchen and make a double coffee, hoping it'll wake you up. But nothing. You get to work, and before you've even started, you're already exhausted. As the day goes on, by mid-afternoon, you're done. You can't focus, everything feels like a chore, and exercising? Not today, maybe tomorrow. Maybe it's not exactly like this for you, but how many times have you felt drained, sluggish, and unmotivated? And the worst part? You think it's normal? Spoiler, it's not. Do you know what's wrong? You're neglecting your body. Your body is the foundation of everything. If you don't take care of it, it doesn't matter how many goals you have or how badly you want to change your life. You won't get there. Because when your body doesn't cooperate, everything else falls apart. But don't worry, my friend. You're not alone in this. And as always, the Stoics had something to teach us. No surprise there, right? They understood this centuries ago, long before we did. For them, health wasn't a luxury or something secondary. It was a fundamental pillar of excellence. They knew that the body and mind are one. Like the wheels of a bicycle, if one breaks, you don't move forward. You can't aim for mental strength if you're physically falling apart. You can't expect your mind to function if you're not giving your body the right fuel. Look at the example of Loida Zabala. At 11 years old, she lost mobility in her legs. Her life changed overnight. She could have given in to self-pity, convinced herself that there was nothing left to do, that her life was defined by tragedy. But she didn't. She chose to fight. She chose to get stronger. She chose to push her limits and prove that, even when the body is limited, it can still be trained, cared for, and developed. Today, she's a weightlifting champion, representing her country in international competitions. She is living proof that your body doesn't have to be an obstacle. It can be a tool to become your best self. And now tell me, what's your excuse? You don't need to train like a professional athlete, but you do need to do the basics. Think of your body as a car. You can have the clearest destination in the world, but if the engine is broken, you're not getting anywhere. If you're constantly tired, if you have no strength, if your mind shuts down halfway through the day, then your engine is failing. And if the engine is failing, it's because you haven't taken care of it the way you should. Now imagine I give you two choices. The first path, you keep living like this. You wake up tired, rely on coffee to function, go through your day drained, with no energy, no motivation. Fatigue piles up, your mind slows down, you lose interest in things you used to enjoy simply because you don't have the energy for them anymore. Days turn into weeks, weeks into years. But the second path? Here, you make a decision. Not a drastic change, not extreme sacrifice. Just one small action to start winning this battle. Which one do you choose? I already know you'll pick the second. So, how do you do it? Starting tomorrow, move. It doesn't matter how, when, or where. Just move. Do whatever works for you. Do you like walking, dancing, swimming? Then do it. And I know what's coming. The usual excuses. I have too much work. I have to take the kids to school. I don't have time. Relax. I'm not asking for much. Just go for a 10-minute walk. Seriously, you can't find 10 minutes? It's not hard. And do it again the next day, and the next, and the next. Before you know it, your body will start asking for it. You'll notice you have more energy, you sleep better, and your mind becomes sharper. Second step, improve just one thing in your diet. Don't jump into extreme diets. Don't cut everything out at once. Don't overcomplicate it. Just pick one habit and improve it. Do you drink too little water? Have one more glass a day? Do you eat too many processed foods? Cut back on just one thing. You don't need to change everything overnight. But you do need to start, because if you don't start, nothing happens. Remember what Seneca said, if we do not take care of our bodies, our minds will also weaken. This isn't about being perfect. It's about doing the work. Consistency is the key. A little movement each day turns into energy. A small change in your diet turns into clarity. One single step in the right direction makes everything else easier. 3. Stop making excuses. Be honest with yourself, my friend. How many times have you said one of these phrases? I don't have time. I'm just not talented at that. I don't know where to start. Now tell me, is it really that you can't? Or is it just that you don't want to put in the effort? Excuses are comfortable. They protect you. They make you feel good about yourself because they give you a reason not to do what you know you should be doing. But here's the truth you don't want to hear. They're lies, and worse, they're keeping you from becoming your best self. Think about what we talked about earlier regarding your body. If you don't take care of it, you don't move forward. Well, the same thing happens with your mind. It's like a muscle. If you don't use it, it weakens. And every time you make an excuse, you're making it weaker. Every time you say, "I can't," you're training your brain to give up before even trying. Do you know what psychology says about this? Your mind hates feeling conflicted. So when you know you should do something but don't, your brain looks for an excuse to make you feel better. This is called cognitive dissonance. It's not that you're lazy, it's that it's raining so I can't go to the gym. It's not that you don't want to study, it's that it's not the right time. It's not that you're avoiding change, it's that you're just not ready yet. Do you see how dangerous this is? You're not just avoiding effort, you're convincing yourself that you're making the right choice. But some people refuse to play this mental game. Look at Arnold Schwarzenegger. When he arrived in the US, he barely spoke English. He had every excuse in the world to stay in his comfort zone. But instead of justifying himself, he learned the language. Instead of complaining about his accent, he turned it into his personal brand. Instead of saying, "This is too hard," he did it anyway. And because of that, he went from being unknown to becoming a successful bodybuilder, actor, entrepreneur, and politician. Do you think he made it because he was lucky? No, of course not. He made it because he didn't allow himself a single excuse. Marcus Aurelius had it right. Stop debating what a good man should be. Be one. Excuses are the barrier between who you are and who you could be. If you keep feeding them, you'll never move forward. Now tell me, have you ever set a goal to learn a new language? You imagined it all. I'm going to learn French. In 6 months, I'll be fluent. You're motivated. You download an app. You watch a video about the best method. But then days go by and the excuses start showing up. I don't know where to start. I'm just not good at languages. You can't really learn without living in the country. And months later, you still can't even order a coffee in French. So, are you ready to stop making excuses and actually become your best self? First, you need to trick your own brain. Instead of saying, "I don't feel like it today," try saying, "Okay, but just a little." Sounds silly? Try it. Are you mindlessly scrolling on your phone? Since I'm here, I'll open the app and do just one lesson. Driving somewhere? I'll listen to just a little bit of this French podcast. The interesting thing? Once you start, the resistance disappears. The hard part isn't doing it, it's starting. Another trick? The mandatory investment method. Every time you make an excuse, pay yourself for it. If you say, "I don't have time to study today," put €5 into a savings account. At the end of the month, use that money for something that helps you grow. A course, a book, something that pushes you forward. This way, every excuse costs you something, and little by little you'll start eliminating them from your life. Every time you say, "I can't," do something small to prove that you can. Every time you say, "It's not the right time," take action right now. Every time your mind tries to justify itself, silence it with action. So tell me, did you train your mind today? Or did you just fill it with excuses? Because if you truly want to become your best self, you need to start challenging your own excuses. Because if you don't, no one else will do it for you. 4. Use your mind as your greatest weapon. Once upon a time, there was a warrior who owned the sharpest sword in the kingdom. It was said that he could cut through anything with a single strike. But over time, the warrior stopped practicing. Confident that his blade would stay sharp, he left it in its sheath. Months passed, years passed. One day, he was challenged to a duel. Certain of his skills, he drew his sword and attacked. But the blade was rusted, dull, useless. His greatest weapon, the one that had once made him invincible, had become dead weight. Now think about this. How many times do we do the same with our own minds? Your mind is like a sword. If you sharpen and use it daily, it becomes your greatest ally. But if you neglect it, it weakens, rusts, and becomes slow. Benjamin Franklin understood this better than anyone. And believe it or not, he wasn't born a genius. He became one of the greatest minds in history because he trained his mind every single day. He had a plan: read, write, analyze. debate with himself, not because it was easy, but because he knew that without effort, he would never achieve anything great. Sometimes I wonder if he read Epictetus when he said, "Only an educated man is free." The Stoics knew this well. Knowledge isn't just about learning more facts, it's the key to independence. Whoever controls their mind, controls their life, but those who leave it at the mercy of distractions, laziness, and mindless noise become prisoners of their own limitations. Maybe you haven't noticed, but every time you let your mind run on autopilot, every time you spend hours consuming pointless content, every time you avoid a challenge because it's too hard, you're weakening it. Over time, words start slipping away, you struggle to remember names, you become slower at solving problems, and one day, you realize your mind isn't what it used to be. Mel Robbins, one of the most direct speakers on mental discipline, says the problem isn't that you don't know what to do, it's that your brain is wired to protect you from effort. Every time you try to start something difficult, your mind immediately comes up with an excuse. Yes, those same excuses we talked about earlier, but luckily, you already know how to control them. So if you want to turn your mind into your most powerful weapon, you need to train it. First, use the 5-second rule. The next time you hesitate to do something important, count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and just do it. Don't overthink it. Don't give your brain time to sabotage you. Just act. Second, train your mind with small, consistent challenges. Every day, do something that pushes your mental limits. It can be as simple as reading an article on a new topic, solving a puzzle, or memorizing a phrase in another language. Whatever it is, just do it. Lastly, strengthen your critical thinking. Don't settle for the first piece of information you hear. Question it. When you read or listen to something, ask yourself, does this make sense? How can I apply this to my life? Are there other perspectives? The more you train your mind to analyze, compare, and reflect, the sharper it becomes. Knowledge isn't about collecting facts, it's about knowing how to use them. So tell me, my friend, are you sharpening your sword, or are you letting it rust? Remember, just like your body, your mind is the one thing that will always be with you. It's the most powerful tool you'll ever have to achieve everything you want. Use it well. 5. Erase the noise from your mind. Imagine walking into a crowded room. Everyone is talking at the same time. Some are arguing about politics, others are gossiping, and a few are shouting about products you don't need. The voices blend together, words overlap. You try to focus on just one conversation, but it's impossible. The noise is overwhelming. Now tell me, what would you do in that situation? Most likely you'd leave as soon as possible, because it's impossible to think in the middle of that chaos. So here's the important question. If you wouldn't tolerate being in a room like that, why do you let your mind live in that same noise every single day? Because that's exactly what we do. We fill our heads with other people's voices. Social media, ping, notification, news, flash, breaking story. Messages, beep beep, ads, comparisons, criticism. Everything comes at us without a filter. And without realizing it, we're trapped in a storm of mental noise. And of course, noise is addictive. Psychologists explain it well. The more information we consume, the harder it is for our brains to filter what actually matters. We become restless, distracted, constantly overwhelmed. It's like trying to write on a blank page that's already covered in scribbles. Seneca knew this. He said, "Part of happiness is not wanting what you don't need." You don't need to know what an influencer had for breakfast. You don't need to read about the latest internet controversy. You don't need to fill every minute of your mind with irrelevant information. What you really need is clarity. A calm mind, one that's focused on you and on improving every single day. So, how do you break this cycle? I have a challenge for you. Try a mental diet. Imagine waking up and not grabbing your phone first thing. What can you do instead? Take a minute to stretch, take a deep breath, and just be present. Then have breakfast. Not with your phone in your hand, not with the TV on. Just you, your food, and silence. You leave the house. No music, no podcasts, no news playing in the background. Just the sound of the real world. You hear the wind, footsteps, the little details that digital noise usually drowns out. During the day, every time you feel the urge to check social media for no reason, pause. Ask yourself, do I actually need to see this right now? At lunchtime, you don't scroll through the news. You eat slowly. You actually taste your food. Your mind isn't somewhere else. It's here. In the afternoon, you decide not to read negative news. Nothing happens if you miss a day of world drama. And before bed, instead of mindlessly watching random videos, you write down how you feel. Just a few lines, nothing more. Now tell me, can you imagine a day like that? Less noise, more clarity, less distraction, more focus on yourself, on building your best version. I challenge you to try it, just for one day. Because in a world full of noise, silence is your superpower. 6. If you don't believe in yourself, no one will. Let me tell you Jim's story. He had a dream so big that people laughed when he talked about it. He was a nobody, a kid sleeping in a van who had dropped out of school to help his family, performing small comedy shows in run-down bars, hoping someone would give him a chance. But no one believed in him. Well, almost no one. Because he did. He believed in his own potential. So much so that he did something most people would call crazy. He wrote himself a check for $10 million for acting services rendered and dated it 5 years into the future. He kept it in his wallet and looked at it every single day. Every day he reminded himself that he was worth it, that he would make it. 5 years later, he was offered a role in Dumb and Dumber for $10 million. Yes, exactly, you guessed it. That kid was Jim Carrey. Now tell me, can you imagine what would have happened if he hadn't believed in his own talent? How many times have you stopped yourself before even trying? How many times have you said, I'm not good enough before even taking the first step? If you don't bet on yourself, no one else will. Marcus Aurelius understood this well. You have power over your mind, not external events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Think about it for a moment. What would have happened if Marcus Aurelius hadn't believed in himself? An emperor doubting every decision? I don't know if I should lead Rome today. Maybe tomorrow. Or worse, let me ask the barbarians if they'd rather invade now or later. Spoiler, he wouldn't have won a single battle. Marcus Aurelius was an emperor because he had an unshakable mindset. He knew that everything started in the mind. And now tell me, how many times have you let others define what you can or cannot do? Imagine you decide to move to another country to learn a new language and find a job. You're excited, motivated, ready for the adventure. But then the voices start. That's too hard. You'll end up coming back. You won't make it there. And little by little, you start to doubt yourself. You begin to believe in their fears more than in your own abilities. What if you fail? What if you don't make it? What if... Stop. No more what ifs. If you don't believe in yourself, no one will. So do you want to start believing that you can become your best self? First, make a list. Write down 3 things you're genuinely good at. These can be skills, personality traits, or strengths that have helped you in the past. Then, write down 3 things you can improve. But be careful. This isn't to discourage you. It's to help you see that everything can be worked on. What is a weakness today can become your greatest strength tomorrow. Second, make positive affirmations a habit. Every day, say something out loud that reinforces your confidence. Not empty phrases, but truths that actually convince you. Instead of saying, I am successful, say, I am learning every day and getting closer to my goal. Instead of, I am the best, say, I am capable of improving with every effort. The key is to believe it, because when you believe it, you make it real. If you don't bet on yourself, who will? Believing in yourself isn't arrogance, it's the foundation of everything. If you want to build your best version, you first have to trust that you can. 7. Peace is not something you find, it's something you build. Stop for a second and answer this honestly. When was the last time you felt true peace? I'm not talking about those moments when you distract yourself with your phone or binge watch a series to escape reality. I mean that real sense of calm, of clarity, of being at peace with yourself and with life. If you can't remember the last time you felt that, you have a problem. Most people go through life waiting for peace to come to them. When I have more money, I'll be happy. When I get that job, I'll finally feel at ease. When this problem is over, I'll be able to relax. And so, we spend years chasing a mirage, as if peace were some hidden treasure we'll stumble upon one day. But my friend, peace is not something you look for. Peace is something you build. There are people who have lived through chaos, violence, and suffering, and yet they have found peace. Not because someone handed it to them, not because they discovered it on a spiritual retreat, or because the world suddenly decided to be kind to them. They built it. Astrid Medina is a perfect example of this. She endured one of the hardest tragedies. Her father was murdered during an armed conflict in her country. She lost the person she admired most, along with her sense of security. She could have been consumed by rage, by the desire for revenge, by grief. And who could blame her? But she chose a different path. Amidst all that chaos, she took control of her fate and focused on the only thing she could control: her own peace. During the peace negotiations, instead of locking herself in suffering, she found the strength to move forward. She became a coffee grower, worked tirelessly, and today, she is recognized for producing some of the best coffee in the world. She built her peace with every decision she made. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher who was born a slave, understood this better than anyone. He once said, "Men are not disturbed by things, but by the view they take of them." What does that mean? That peace does not depend on what happens around you. It depends on how you choose to face it. Think about it. If Epictetus, as a slave, could find serenity within himself, what's stopping us from doing the same? Of course, we're not living in ancient Rome. We live in a hyper-connected world, flooded with information, stress, and mental noise. We say we want peace, yet we keep filling our lives with things that steal it from us. Thich Nhat Hanh, a Vietnamese Buddhist monk, explained this with a simple metaphor. Your mind is like a glass of water with dirt at the bottom. If you constantly shake it, the water becomes cloudy and you can't see clearly. But if you let it sit, the dirt settles and the water becomes crystal clear again. So tell me, are you letting your mind settle, or are you still shaking it with unnecessary worries? And here's another key question. Are you waiting for peace to come to your life, or are you doing something to build it? If it's the second one, then it's time to change things right now. First, create pockets of calm in your day. You can't find peace if you're surrounded by chaos 24/7. Set aside at least 10 minutes a day to sit in silence. No distractions, no notifications, no external noise. Let your mind breathe. Second, learn to let go of what you can't control. How many times do you stress over things that are completely out of your hands? Traffic, other people's opinions, the past, the future. None of that is yours to control. Instead of wasting energy on what's beyond your reach, focus on what you can manage: your attitude, your effort, your response. Third, practice radical gratitude. Most people seek peace by waiting for life to change, but peace comes when you choose to appreciate what you already have. Every day, find at least one reason to be grateful. And don't just go for the obvious ones. Don't just be thankful for food or shelter. Be thankful for the person who made you laugh, for that quiet moment of rest, for the hot coffee that gave you a pause in your day. Remember, peace isn't something you'll find in a distant place. It's something you decide to build every single day, with every thought, every action, and every choice, to become the best version of yourself. 8. Master your time, or it will master you. Imagine you're in a race, but instead of running, you're walking at a relaxed pace without a sense of urgency. You think the finish line is far away, that you have all the time in the world. You look around, get distracted by anything and everything. Halfway through, you're still convinced that time is on your side. But suddenly you check the clock and realize the finish line is just a few steps away, and you have almost no time left to reach it. This is how we procrastinate. We think we have time to spare, that we can leave things for later, that there will always be more time. But by the time we finally notice, the clock is against us, and we're forced to sprint, trying to do in one day what we could have done in a week. My friend, if you don't master your time, it will master you. And believe me, this isn't just a feeling. Science explains it. There's a psychological principle called Parkinson's Law, which states that a task will expand to fill the time you give it. If you have a week to do something, it will take a week. If you have a month, it will take a month. But if you only have a day, you'll finish it in a day. I'm sure this has happened to you. You have to write a report. It's Monday and they tell you it's due Friday. You think, I have all week, no rush. Monday goes by and you don't touch it. Tuesday, same thing. Wednesday, you glance at it. Thursday, panic kicks in. And by Friday, you're rushing like crazy to finish it. The result? Stress, pressure, and work that could have been much better if you had planned it properly. Seneca made this clear centuries ago. While we waste our time hesitating and postponing, life is slipping away. I know this from experience. I fell into this trap too. My time controlled me. I was stuck in routine, work, responsibilities. I didn't even have time to brush my teeth in peace. Until I realized something. The problem wasn't how many things I had to do. The problem was that I didn't know how to prioritize. So I had to learn to manage my time intelligently. Do you know what the first thing I did was? I cut my to-do list down to just 3 tasks per day. No more writing down 20 things and only getting one done. Just 3, but the 3 most important ones. If it worked for me, I'm sure it will work for you too. So don't overwhelm yourself with a million tasks. Just pick 3 and they must be specific. If you have a business, instead of writing work on my company, write call 3 key clients, finalize this week's budget, or plan the social media strategy. If you're studying, don't just write review material. Be precise. Create an outline of the first 3 topics, or solve 5 math problems. If you want to improve your health, exercise is too vague. Instead, write go to the gym and complete my weightlifting routine, or prepare 3 healthy meals for tomorrow. With just this one change, you'll notice a massive difference. Instead of feeling trapped in a never-ending cycle, ending the day exhausted but unfulfilled, you'll actually see real progress. You'll finish your 3 most important tasks and finally feel like you're moving forward in the things that truly matter. And the best part? Once you complete those 3, if you have extra time, you can do more. But the key is that you will have already guaranteed your growth, your improvement, your best version. Because now, instead of wasting time, you'll be investing it in yourself. So tell me, my friend, are you still letting time dictate your life? Or are you finally taking control? Let us know in the comments. What 3 tasks will you prioritize tomorrow to start building your best self? 9. Learn to be alone without feeling lonely. You're at home. Total silence. You check your phone. Nothing. You step outside, see groups of friends laughing, couples holding hands, people caught up in their own worlds. And there you are, feeling lonelier than an umbrella in the desert. But wait, why does being alone have to be a bad thing? The philosopher Schopenhauer once said that people fear solitude because they can't stand their own company. And it's true. Many avoid being alone because facing themselves can be terrifying. But listen, learning to be alone without feeling lonely is a powerful skill. It's in those moments of solitude that you can truly discover who you are and work on becoming your best self. Marcus Aurelius understood this well. Nowhere can man find a quieter retreat than in his own soul. Think about it. He was an emperor, surrounded by advisors, armies, an entire empire at his disposal. And yet, he knew that real peace didn't depend on anything external. It was something internal, something built from within. Now tell me, do you find yourself needing music, social media, or any kind of distraction just to avoid silence? You're not alone. Our brains are wired to avoid discomfort. We seek company, noise, and constant stimulation because being alone with our thoughts can be uncomfortable. But here's the twist. That discomfort is the key to growth. So how do you go from feeling lonely to actually enjoying your own company? Here are 3 ways to do it. First, take yourself on a date. Sounds weird? It's not. Plan an outing like you would for a best friend or a partner. Go to your favorite restaurant and actually enjoy each bite. No scrolling on your phone. No hiding behind distractions. Just be in the moment. Second, do something alone that you'd normally do with company. Does going to the movies alone sound awkward? Having coffee at a cafe without someone sitting across from you? Do it. You'll realize that no one is paying as much attention to you as you think. And in fact, it's liberating to do what you enjoy without depending on anyone else. Third, use solitude to understand yourself better. Write. Not on social media, not on WhatsApp. Write for yourself. Jot down how you feel, what you think, what you want to improve. You'll see that when you learn to listen to yourself, you stop needing so much external noise. Remember this, solitude is not a punishment, it's an opportunity. If you learn to enjoy it, you become stronger, more independent, and most importantly, you become the best company for yourself. My friend, you've made it this far. You've absorbed every lesson, strengthened your mind, your discipline, your confidence. But there's one more thing. Something without which everything else falls apart. Because becoming your best self isn't just about what you do. It's also about how you face it. Listen closely, because this is the piece that ties everything together. The final touch to truly becoming your best self. 10. Speak less, make more impact. It is said that Miyamoto Musashi, the legendary samurai, rarely spoke. Not because he was shy, not because he had nothing to say, but because he knew that words mean little if actions don't back them up. Legend has it that before every duel, his opponent would boast about their skills, make bold promises of victory, and try to intimidate him with grand speeches. Musashi, on the other hand, simply observed in silence. And when the moment of truth arrived, he let his sword do the talking. In the end, the one who spoke the most was always the first to fall. Epictetus put it simply, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. Think about it. What's the point of saying you're disciplined if you don't keep your commitments? What's the point of promising to change if you keep repeating the same habits? What's the point of talking about your plans if you never take action? Here's the uncomfortable truth. When you talk too much, you lose focus. You waste energy explaining what you will do, convincing others, seeking validation. And in the end, all you accomplish is distracting yourself from what really matters, taking action. Now imagine this. You have a brilliant business idea. In your mind, it's crystal clear, the name, the logo, the website, the marketing strategy. You can already visualize success, and every person you meet, you tell them with excitement, I'm launching my own business, it's going to be amazing, I'm going to revolutionize the market. Day after day, you keep talking about it. You make lists, watch videos, read about entrepreneurship. You feel like you're making progress because you're thinking about it all the time. But the reality, you haven't done a thing. You haven't built a product. You haven't made a single call. You haven't taken the first step. And the worst part? The more you talk about it, the more you feel like you're already on your way, like just saying it out loud is enough to make it real. But it's not. Weeks later, you see someone else launch a similar idea and you think, that could have been me. So do you really want to build something real? Or do you just like the idea of talking about it? Look, becoming your best self isn't about announcing what you're going to do. It's about doing it. Let your results speak for you. Don't tell people you're changing, let them notice. Don't announce that you're going to wake up early. Just do it. Don't explain that you've become more disciplined. Let your actions prove it. This isn't about hiding your progress. It's about focusing on execution instead of wasting energy on words. And beyond that, use fewer words and more presence. Listen more. Speak only when you have something meaningful to contribute. Instead of trying to impress with speeches, impress with your attitude. Because in the end, words come and go. But actions, they leave a lasting impact. Now tell me, do your words add value, or do they just fill the air? Because your best self isn't built with promises, it's built with actions. Every day is a new opportunity to build your best self. It's not about waiting for the perfect moment or stacking up good intentions. It's about taking action, moving forward, and proving with your actions who you are and who you want to become. Because your best self isn't something you find, it's something you build. With every decision, with every habit, every time you choose to focus on yourself instead of getting lost in distractions. If you've made it this far, write in the comments, "I build my best self." That way, I'll know who the true Stoic warriors are who made it to the end. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and give this video a like so you don't miss out on what's coming next. I also invite you to check out our playlist, which you'll see on the screen. It's packed with ideas, stories, and advice to help you navigate life with more wisdom and confidence. Click it, and let's keep moving forward together. Until next time, take care and keep embracing your inner Stoic.